Tenerife Airport Disaster. On March 27, 1977, the deadliest aviation disaster in history occurred at Los Rodeos Airport, now Tenerife North Airport, on the island of Tenerife in the Canary Islands, Spain. The accident involved two large passenger aircraft, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, both Boeing 747 jumbo jets. Earlier that day, many flights were diverted to Tenerife because a bomb explosion had closed the airport at Gran Canaria. The small airport quickly became overcrowded. Later in the afternoon, thick fog covered the runway, reducing visibility for both pilots and air traffic controllers. While preparing for departure, the KLM aircraft began its takeoff roll without full clearance from air traffic control. At the same time, the Pan Am aircraft was still taxiing on the same runway and had not yet exited. Because of the heavy fog, the pilots did not see each other until the last moment. The two planes collided on the runway, causing a massive explosion and fire. 583 people were killed, while 61 passengers from the Pan Am aircraft survived. The disaster led to major improvements in aviation communication and safety procedures worldwide. Air India Flight 171 crash. On June 12, 2025, Air India Flight AI-171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, crashed shortly after takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, India. The aircraft was operating an international flight from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick Airport in the United Kingdom. The plane was carrying 242 people on board, including 230 passengers and 12 crew members. Just 32 seconds after takeoff, the aircraft suddenly lost power and crashed into a hostel building at BJ Medical College near the airport. The crash caused a massive explosion and fire, destroying the aircraft and severely damaging nearby buildings. The disaster killed 241 of the 242 people on board, leaving only one survivor. The crash also caused 19 deaths on the ground and injured dozens of people in the surrounding area. In total, about 260 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest aviation disasters in India. Investigators later found that both engines lost thrust shortly after takeoff when the fuel control switches moved from run to cutoff. The exact reason for this remains under investigation as aviation authorities continue to analyze the aircraft's black boxes and cockpit recordings. The tragedy shocked the aviation world and led to a global investigation involving aviation experts from several countries. Japan Airlines Flight 123 crash. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747-SR, crashed into Mount Takamagahara near Ueno, Gunma Prefecture, Japan, about 100 kilometers northwest of Tokyo. The flight had taken off from Tokyo's Haneda Airport and was heading to Osaka on a routine domestic journey. The aircraft was carrying 524 people on board, including 509 passengers and 15 crew members. About 12 minutes after takeoff, the plane suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure. The rear pressure bulkhead of the aircraft ruptured due to a faulty repair made years earlier. The rupture caused an explosive decompression that destroyed the aircraft's vertical stabilizer and damaged the hydraulic control systems. Without proper control, the pilots struggled to keep the aircraft stable for more than 30 minutes. Eventually, the plane crashed into a mountainous area. The crash killed 520 people, while only 4 passengers survived, making it the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. The tragedy led to major improvements in aircraft maintenance and inspection procedures worldwide. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappearance. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, disappeared during a flight from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China. The aircraft was carrying 239 people, including 227 passengers and 12 crew members. About 40 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft suddenly lost contact with air traffic control while flying over the South China Sea. The plane's transponder stopped transmitting and it vanished from civilian radar. Military radar later suggested that the aircraft turned back and flew across the Malay Peninsula before heading south into the Indian Ocean. A massive international search operation involving several countries began soon after the disappearance. It became one of the largest and most expensive search efforts in aviation history. Despite years of investigation and ocean searches, the main wreckage of the aircraft has never been found. Only a few pieces of debris believed to belong to the aircraft were later discovered on islands in the Indian Ocean. The disappearance of Flight MH370 remains one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. Malaysia Airlines, Flight 17 shootdown. On July 17, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17, a Boeing 777-200ER, was flying from Amsterdam, Netherlands to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The aircraft was carrying 298 people, including 283 passengers and 15 crew members. While flying at an altitude of about 33,000 feet over eastern Ukraine, the aircraft suddenly disappeared from radar. The plane had entered airspace above a conflict zone where fighting was taking place between Ukrainian forces and separatist groups. Investigations later confirmed that the aircraft had been shot down by a surface-to-air missile fired from the ground. The explosion destroyed the aircraft in midair, and the wreckage fell across a wide area near the village of Hrabov, Ukraine. All 298 people on board were killed, making it one of the deadliest aviation disasters of the 21st century. Many of the victims were citizens of the Netherlands. International investigations later concluded that the missile system responsible for the attack came from Russia. The incident caused worldwide outrage and intensified tensions in the region. Air France Flight 447 crash. On June 1, 2009, Air France Flight 447, an Airbus A330-203, was flying from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to Paris, France. The aircraft was carrying 228 people, including 216 passengers and 12 crew members. While flying over the Atlantic Ocean, the plane encountered a severe thunderstorm during the night. Around 3 hours after takeoff, the aircraft suddenly lost communication with air traffic control. The plane disappeared from radar while flying over a remote part of the ocean. Investigators later discovered that the aircraft's pitot tubes, which measure airspeed, had become blocked by ice. This caused incorrect speed readings and triggered a series of system warnings in the cockpit. The pilots struggled to understand the situation, and the aircraft eventually stalled and fell into the ocean. All 228 people on board were killed. The wreckage was located nearly 2 years later at a depth of about 3,900 meters in the Atlantic Ocean. The disaster led to major improvements in pilot training and aircraft sensor systems. Pan Am Flight 103 bombing. On December 21, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103, a Boeing 747, was flying from London Heathrow Airport in the United Kingdom to New York's JFK Airport in the United States. The aircraft was carrying 259 people on board, including 243 passengers and 16 crew members. About 38 minutes after takeoff, while the aircraft was flying at around 31,000 feet over the town of Lockerbie in Scotland, a bomb hidden inside luggage exploded in the cargo hold. The powerful explosion caused the aircraft to break apart in midair. Debris from the plane fell over a wide area of the town. Tragically, 11 people on the ground were also killed when parts of the aircraft destroyed houses below. In total, 270 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in aviation history. After a long international investigation, authorities concluded that the bombing was carried out by operatives linked to the Libyan intelligence service. The attack led to major changes in airport security and baggage screening procedures worldwide. American Airlines Flight 191 crash. On May 25, 1979, American Airlines Flight 191, a McDonnell Douglas DC-10, crashed shortly after takeoff from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois, USA. The flight was scheduled to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles. The aircraft was carrying 271 people on board, including 258 passengers and 13 crew members. Just moments after takeoff, the left engine and pylon separated from the wing due to structural damage caused during improper maintenance. When the engine broke off, it damaged the aircraft's hydraulic systems and electrical wiring. This caused the slats on the left wing to retract, reducing lift and making the aircraft uncontrollable. Within seconds, the plane rolled to the left and crashed into an open field near the airport. All 271 people on board were killed, and 2 people on the ground also died, bringing the total death toll to 273. The disaster became the deadliest aviation accident in United States history and led to major changes in aircraft maintenance procedures and safety inspections. United Airlines Flight 93 crash. On September 11, 2001, United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757, departed from Newark International Airport in New Jersey, USA, heading to San Francisco, California. The aircraft carried 44 people, including 37 passengers and 7 crew members. Shortly after takeoff, the plane was hijacked by 4 terrorists as part of the coordinated attacks on the United States that day. The hijackers took control of the cockpit and changed the aircraft's direction toward Washington, D.C. Investigators later believed the intended target was likely the U.S. Capitol building or the White House. During the flight, passengers learned through phone calls that other planes had already been used in attacks. Realizing what was happening, several passengers and crew members decided to fight back against the hijackers. A struggle took place inside the aircraft as passengers attempted to regain control. During the fight, the hijackers crashed the plane into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. All 44 people on board were killed, but their actions likely prevented the aircraft from hitting its intended target. Air India Flight 182 bombing. On June 23, 1985, Air India Flight 182, a Boeing 747 named Kanishka, was flying from Montreal, Canada to London, United Kingdom, with further stops planned in New Delhi and Mumbai, India. The aircraft was carrying 329 people, including 307 passengers and 22 crew members. While the aircraft was flying at about 31,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean near the coast of Ireland, a powerful bomb exploded inside the cargo hold. The explosion caused the aircraft to break apart in midair, and the wreckage fell into the ocean. All 329 people on board were killed, making it the deadliest aviation disaster involving Air India and one of the worst terrorist attacks in aviation history. Most of the victims were Canadian citizens of Indian origin. Investigators later determined that the bombing was carried out by extremists connected to the Khalistani militant movement. The attack led to major improvements in airport security and baggage screening procedures worldwide. Germanwings Flight 9525 crash. On March 24, 2015, Germanwings Flight 9525, an Airbus A320, crashed into the French Alps near Prades-Haute-Bléone in southeastern France. The flight was traveling from Barcelona, Spain, to Düsseldorf, Germany. The aircraft was carrying 150 people, including 144 passengers and 6 crew members. About 30 minutes after takeoff, the captain briefly left the cockpit. While he was outside, the co-pilot locked the cockpit door and began descending the aircraft intentionally. Air traffic controllers soon noticed the unusual descent and attempted to contact the pilots, but there was no response. The captain tried to re-enter the cockpit, but the reinforced door prevented him from getting inside. The aircraft continued descending until it crashed into the mountains at high speed. All 150 people on board were killed. Investigators later confirmed that the co-pilot had deliberately crashed the aircraft. After the disaster, aviation authorities introduced new safety rules requiring 2 authorized people to always remain in the cockpit. TWA Flight 800 explosion. On July 17, 1996, Trans World Airlines Flight 800, a Boeing 747, took off from John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York, USA, heading to Paris, France. The aircraft was carrying 230 people, including 212 passengers and 18 crew members. About 12 minutes after takeoff, while the plane was climbing to cruising altitude over the Atlantic Ocean near Long Island, a sudden explosion occurred. Witnesses on the ground reported seeing a fireball in the sky before the aircraft broke apart. The aircraft crashed into the ocean, killing all 230 people on board. The disaster led to one of the largest aviation investigations in U.S. history. After several years of investigation, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, concluded that the explosion was caused by a fuel tank explosion inside the aircraft, likely triggered by a short circuit in the wiring. The accident led to new safety regulations designed to reduce the risk of fuel tank explosions in commercial aircraft. Lion Air Flight 610 crash. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a Boeing 737 MAX 8, crashed into the Java Sea near Jakarta, Indonesia, shortly after takeoff from Soekarno-Hatta International Airport. The flight was heading to Pangkal Pinang, Indonesia. The aircraft was carrying 189 people, including 181 passengers and 8 crew members. Just minutes after takeoff, the pilots reported problems controlling the aircraft. The plane repeatedly pushed its nose downward despite the pilot's attempts to correct it. Investigators later discovered that a faulty angle of attack sensor had sent incorrect data to the aircraft's automated system known as MCAS, Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. This system repeatedly forced the plane to dive. The aircraft crashed into the sea about 13 minutes after takeoff, killing all 189 people on board. The disaster raised serious concerns about the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. It eventually led to a global grounding of the aircraft type and major changes in aviation safety regulations. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crash. On March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, a Boeing 737 MAX 8, crashed shortly after takeoff from Addis Ababa Bole International Airport in Ethiopia. The flight was scheduled to travel to Nairobi, Kenya. The aircraft was carrying 157 people on board, including 149 passengers and 8 crew members from more than 30 different countries. Shortly after departure, the pilots reported problems controlling the aircraft and requested permission to return to the airport. However, within 6 minutes of takeoff, the aircraft lost control and crashed near the town of Bishoftu, Ethiopia. All 157 people on board were killed in the accident. Investigations later revealed that the crash was caused by the same MCAS automated flight control system that had contributed to the earlier Lion Air Flight 610 disaster. A faulty sensor sent incorrect data, causing the system to repeatedly push the aircraft's nose downward. Following this second accident, aviation authorities worldwide grounded the Boeing 737 MAX fleet until major safety modifications were made. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 hijacking. On November 23, 1996, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961, a Boeing 767, was flying from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia to Nairobi, Kenya. The aircraft was carrying 175 people, including 163 passengers and 12 crew members. Shortly after takeoff, 3 hijackers took control of the aircraft and forced the pilots to fly to Australia, demanding political asylum. The pilots tried to explain that the plane did not have enough fuel to reach that distance, but the hijackers refused to listen. As the aircraft continued flying across the Indian Ocean, the fuel eventually ran out. The pilots attempted an emergency landing in the water near the Comoros Islands, close to the airport in Moroni. However, one wing hit the water first, causing the aircraft to break apart during the crash landing. The accident killed 125 people, while 50 passengers and crew members survived. The dramatic crash was captured on video by tourists on a nearby beach and became one of the most widely known aviation disasters caused by hijacking.